Bases drop for a new round of soccer down here. That looks a little dark, actually. Hang on just a second. A man tries to change things because he looks like he's completely and totally flared out. All right, that's up 2. That looks a little better. John, hear you there. It's a Reaction Monday. We know what that means. Whatever you want to react about. And we've got Atlanta United to talk about. They continued their preseason at IMG Academy in Bradenton. We will discuss whatever is on your mind involving Atlanta United and New England. Abe Gordon joining us in about 10 minutes. And we will go through Abe's thoughts. Miguel Almiron gets minutes. You got to see Alexei Miranchuk and what a lot of folks saw on tape with the imagination and the touch on the set piece for the goal, the first goal. And we'll let you hear what that sounded like from ATLUTD.com/live. 2 more matches this week for Atlanta, one in the midweek, one on the weekend. Last one in the midweek is on Wednesday. Then they turn around and come home for the matchup against FC Dallas behind closed doors at the Children's Health Care of Atlanta training ground. So Abe Gordon coming in about 10 minutes. We'll discuss what's on Abe's mind with Atlanta United. We'll discuss what's on your mind with Atlanta United as well, hour number 1. Bart Keeler is going to join us in hour number 2, and there's plenty of reffing down here to get into. I had no less than 3 separate penalties to address. We've got the audio on one, and we'll talk about player cussing, and even if it's not directed at officials, just kind of cursing into the air, which is something that, we're prone to do. You're mad at yourself. You're mad at others. You're mad at the entire world. You sit there, you just kind of yell it into the air. Players did that this weekend. We'll get into cussing with Bart. We'll get into VAR, reffing down here, and whatever else is on Bart's mind after Camp Cupcake and the USMNT and the WNT. U17s are going at it. I think they're going at it this morning, if memory serves. So we'll get into what to expect from the U17s. Cooper Sanchez, if you missed it, Atlanta United's Cooper Sanchez was wearing a mic. That is gold. So Cooper Sanchez, it's on the U.S. Soccer Socials. Cooper Sanchez at practice wearing a microphone during the U17 tournament. So we'll get into that with Bart at 10 o'clock. We got news of the morning. We got stuff. We got plenty to talk about. Lay of the land for the week. Here we go. It's officially high school soccer season for us, which means we are wall-to-wall. And it starts tomorrow night at Decatur High School, North Atlanta, Decatur, the doubleheader. That's going to be over on our first Mixler channel, SDH 1, soccerdownhere.mixler.com. Then the fun starts because we are your home broadcaster for the Creek Cup up at Johns Creek and Northview High Schools. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday on both of our Mixler channels, SDH 1 and 2, you're going to be getting all of the high school action from the Creek Cup. It's going to be Wednesday. I want to say Wednesday afternoon is just a handful of matches at Northview. I'll be on the call for those. So the way that this will work is this way. It'll be me anchoring everything at Northview, and Jason and Maddie will be anchoring everything at Johns Creek, and there the twain shall meet. But Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday on our Mixler channels, it is the Creek Cup, boys and girls soccer kicking off non-region play here in the state of Georgia. You got a lot of interesting teams that are making the trip. Greenbrier's making the trip from the Augusta area. You've got Dothan making the trip on the boys' side. You've got Tucker. You have, let me see if I can get the rundown here. Girls. Campbell, LaGrange, Johns Creek, Midtown, Northview, Walton, North Atlanta, and Greenbrier. So we will have seen North Atlanta tomorrow night to get ready for Creek Cup, and they start that on Friday. Boys side, Walton, Sequoia, Campbell, North Atlanta, Dothan, Tucker, Midtown, Greenbrier, Johns Creek, Murray County, Northview, and LaGrange. So all of those squads, it is 20 teams, 2 locations, 4 days, and it's all going to be on our Mixler channels, soccerdownhere.mixler.com, SDH 1 and 2. We'll have all of the action for you from the Creek Cup, and that's going to be the big kickoff to our high school soccer season. The traditional programming that we have, the noon show will come back. The noon daily show will come back during the playoffs. But the sprint for the championships begins tomorrow. Georgia high school action, North Atlanta and Decatur. At Decatur, 6 and 8. And Jason's going to call the girls' match at 6 so he can get back to his studio to call Atlanta soccer tonight at 10 or after Hawks. I don't know what's going on there, but so he'll call the girls' game. I'll call the boys' game. And then there you go. That's the start of our soccer season on the high school side. 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock on our Mixler channel tomorrow. Now, get the promos going here before Abe joins us in a handful of minutes. It is, once again, an opportunity for you to start your day with our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. I know I need to put the QR code like right here and figure out how to do it and not completely and totally destroy everything else that's in the queue when it comes to our production on a daily basis. Start your day with Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Buy out the store. But you can do that and get 15% off, so you'd still leave with 15% of your money. How do you do that? Well, when you check out, use the code SOCCER 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10%, the they meaning Kickoff Coffee, and reinvest it into youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. You can get your first ever SDH jersey that you can look at Greg Garza modeling on Instagram, the IG or the gram, as the kids say. And you can pick that up at Olive in York. Navy jersey, you can have it personalized. You can go white numerals and letters, or you can go a Carolina bluish letter number combination. You can get that at Olive in York. Proceeds go to the programs that we've earmarked for Soccer for Good in 2025, thanks to our friends at Beyond Goals, thanks to our friends at Kaiser Permanente. Without them, we couldn't be doing a lot of the stuff that we do. And so thanks to them, thanks to all of you guys for picking up your jerseys so far. You can go to Olive in York and get your first ever SDH jersey. Grady Baby and Grady Baby Co. What you do there is the soccer's just better in Atlanta. You can pick that up at Grady Baby and Grady Baby Co. You can get that in the red or the black, the T-shirt or the sweatshirt. And that, the proceeds from there, go to help out middle school soccer programs tied to Atlanta Public Schools. So there's your tie in there with our friends at Grady Baby Co. So Grady Baby Co. and also Olive in York and soccerdownhere.net. You can get your SDH gear, and you can also help out with Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So that being the case, that means that we're going to go ahead and we'll round up. So if we got past 9:12:30 on the clock, and traditionally the way that it goes, you get past halfway, you can round up like when you were in school, you get like a 79.5. Some teachers would sit there and round it up, give you an 80, give you a B. Some teachers at my high school looked at my 70. Okay. All right. Let me bring in Abe. It's story time with John when we bring in Abe here. Okay. So I don't know how your teachers were across the board in high school, but how many of your teachers, when you had a 0.5, like a 79.5, 89.5, they would round up and get you, it's like, okay, that's an 80, that's a 90, you got the A or the B. How many teachers did that you needed to do?
Honestly, that's tough to answer because I don't know if I cared enough about grades to pay attention to like if I was getting benefited. I know sometimes you got like graded on a curve for tests or whatever, but they liked me, right? Like I was a pretty good student. I didn't cause too many issues in class, so they probably rounded up on my behalf.
Okay.
Let's go with that.
All right. So you got that benefit of the doubt. I had a particular math teacher when I was in high school back in the late 1890s. And I had 379.5s, and I got 3 C's because I sat in the back of the classroom and didn't give two whats about this particular math and what it was going to be doing for my lifestyle, So I had the one math teacher that was like, 79.5, C.
Yeah, I was front of the room, heavy on participation, almost too annoyingly so. So I think they like that, and so I think I got the benefit.
I'm sure you did. Absolutely true. Abe Gordon dropping by as he always does on a Monday, looking at Atlanta United and the weekend that was. It was a matchup against New England. Fans in New England are lamenting already about having the same things happen in the preseason that happened last season under Caleb Porter. So there's gnashing of teeth and mixing of fingers, and there's a lot of consternation. Atlanta United comes out with a 2-0 win at IMG Academy. Early thoughts from 30,000 feet before we dive into individual thoughts and players.
Yeah, I mean, look, I wasn't really paying attention to what New England was doing. I was certainly watching for the Atlanta United perspective. And looky here, what do we know? Like set pieces and corner kicks and free kicks are a danger spot for Atlanta United offensively again. And I think that's something that was I mean, sorely missing up until the later stages of the season last year. And I think we have seen that now at multiple parts of this exhibition season. And so certainly looking forward to see if that can translate into the regular season as well. I thought the team looked pretty good. I thought they looked physical too, and there's some bodies being banged over in the exhibition season, almost to the point where I'm like, all right, guys, like let's try and get to opening day healthy here. I know Tia Ray who bagged that back post touch off the free kick. He went down for a little bit, and there were a couple of other moments. So, you just don't want to see it, right? You get a little bit I get a little bit nervous. And but again, I talked to you last week a little bit about Mateus Click as well. I just think he's such a huge addition that's going to get buried. I think because of Almiron and I guess I hadn't talked to you officially because of Latte Laugh as well. But I just think Click is going to be such an integral piece here. And if you're talking about service, and we already saw it again in this exhibition season, just kind of making a mess of things in the box and just causing issues. And ultimately, Click puts it on net and buries it. So very pleased with that addition. It is going to get buried, and rightfully so, right? Like Latte Lath is out here talking the trash already, and so we're ready for that. And it was great to see Miggy back officially in a jersey, competitive, all that stuff. So, and a 2-0 win. And I think that's the other aspect is you are seeing a team that is burying chances. And I don't really look at it as, hey, they probably could have had 5 or 6 goals. I mean, I feel like at times that was the discussion last year. It's like, man, you really got to bury the chances you have. Remember, they had that weird XG and then what, as I deem it, actual G differentiation. And it doesn't necessarily feel right now. And again, it's exhibition season. Let's keep that in mind. But it doesn't feel like that's a massive problem right now. And that's a good feeling too.
So XG minus G equals AG, I believe, in the Abe Gordon stat.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
Nothing like math on
See, they should have bumped you up that half point with that sort of on the fly.
I don't even. I was awful at math, and it never happened. I was the leader of the D's and the F's in algebra. I had nothing to do with it. And because the only thing that we need math for in this business is back timing breaks. That's the only math we have, right?
Yeah, and I guess the fourth official has to do the math on stoppage time and start to add up seconds and count over that clock. But yeah, I think we're pretty math free, and I think that's a good thing.
We're digging it. So when you look at Miggy and his return, Miguel Almiron back, and most of the starters played 70 for Ronnie Dyla and Atlanta United because you're ramping them up to get them 90 minutes fit and such. Miggy specifically, I think that it's match week 1, getting ready to integrate with your new teammates. The passes aren't going to be there every single time. Relationships and wants aren't going to be there every single time. But I think the larger thing is here. He's out there. It's practice. He's integrating, and this was just the first example during game state.
Well, a couple of things here, and I think initially the good news is that he is out there, like you're saying, and that obviously fares well for him being available to start the season. And sometimes when you bring in players, especially later or closer to the season start, you might have an issue getting them eligible to play. And even Latte Lath, I believe, is eligible on opening day on the 22nd. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to be out there. He won't really have had much time to do a lot with his teammates, but it's still a possibility, and that's kind of exciting. And I was talking about this with Mike Connie at the end of last week, and I mentioned this to you once before. I don't need this team to be at its peak at the opening game. And I think you saw a little bit of that in this exhibition game here, is that it's going to take time for Miggy to get back into the top level chemistry with every single teammate that is new here from when he was here. He's not just going to walk right back in and everything is connecting at 100%. So I think you did see a little bit of that. You did see, oh, I thought this player was going to make this run. He made that run. Or I thought he was going to weigh this pass this heavily. It was actually weighed that heavily. And so there are going to be those moments. But I think getting him out there, one, is exciting, as we already talked about. But also it is important to have those kind of decisions in the preseason and kind of move on from that. But look, we're not going to go crazy. At least I'm not going to go crazy. I can't control anyone else and what they're saying. But in terms of if it is a slower start to the season than maybe we want, it's a very difficult schedule early on. There's a lot of playoff teams from last year right up at the front and a lot of moving pieces. And that includes a new manager. And there's just so much inconsistency from last year to this year that I'm going to give them time to build. And I'm going to say that multiple times with you, especially if they do struggle early, because I do think if they stay healthy, this is a team that absolutely can compete in the Eastern Conference and potentially league-wide. But that doesn't mean they're going to be right there day one. So I think you saw some of those things with Miggy in his first time back. I think whenever you do get Latte Life out there, you're going to see probably that as well. But again, we don't need to be the best team in the MLS at match day 1. We need to be the best team in the MLS match day 28, 29, 30, and moving forward. And so we're gonna pace ourselves, right? I mean, you know me, I'm a runner. We don't sprint at the start of I did a 10K this weekend. Wow. You don't sprint at the start of a 10K. You settle in. You're kind of weaving in and out of traffic as you maneuver into the open lanes. And then you hit a stride, right? And then you really find your rhythm, and then you try and pick up towards the end, as you know that finishing kick is there. You're not sprinting out the start, or you won't have much for a finishing kick at the end. So if we're going to relate the season to that, I think it's okay to be a little hesitant and tentative early on and make sure you have what you need down the stretch.
Yeah, because I mean, literally, you're in the newborn calf stage here. You know, it's the episode of whatever 1980s or 90s show that had farm animals, and it's like the newborn calf is like, oh, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough getting to that point.
I'm going to tell you what the problem is already with this analogy.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for the predator usually to take out the calf that's barely walking, and that's obviously not what we want here. So
no, but I mean, in the barn, you know, the calf's first steps, you know, they're kind of clunky, and you know, you're trying to make sure that you can stand on your own feet before you go out there and you start running around and you push beer barrels from St. Louis to a bar someplace. You know, it's all in the build. That's where we are here.
I'm just hoping the mother accepts the child as opposed to rejects it and needs raised by human hands. So
yeah, no, it's not good. Abe Gordon hanging out with us as he always does, bat and lead off. He is our Ricky Henderson on Mondays for Reaction Mondays here on SDH AM. You mentioned Mateus Click, and I think that in the 4-2-3-1 that we're going to be looking at from Ronnie Dyla, I think that Mateus Click is a part of an interesting equation, because you're looking at Click, you're looking at Sleesh, you're looking at Muyumba, you're looking at Jay Fortune, you're looking at guys who are going to be fighting for time in practice every week. And I will be intrigued to see who the dance partners are of the 4+ that are going to be a part of that midfield 3.
Well, it's also interesting, especially if you believe Click will ultimately end up on the right side, that early in the season when you would have Brooks Lennon and you're not going to, the service from the right side, where is it coming from? And that's something that Mateus Click absolutely excels at. You could just look at his assist totals from last year with DC United. And yes, a lot of those are going to Benteke, and that makes it a lot easier to get assists as well. But we had traditionally over the last couple of years counted so heavily on Brooks Lennon getting forward and providing service into the box. With him out injured, is his replacement on the right side going to be able to do that? Or maybe do we rely on the midfielder to actually provide that service? I think that is something that is part of the discussion for Ronnie Deila. Look, we talked about it because not everyone's going to get through this season healthy. Guys are going to have bits here and there. It's good to have the depth. It's good to have the discussion of, boy, there's a lot of talent here, and someone's going to have to be the odd man out. It helps you stay fresh over the course of the season. Look, it's great to be like the MLS's Iron Man, right? And play. I mean, and that's what Brooks Lennon essentially was for the most part. But like, there's also some value of giving guys a little bit of break throughout the course of a season, especially as you hit stretches of match compression without taking a dip in quality. And I think that's what you're trying to build. Look, I'd love to sit here and tell you and say, and I assume you have the same questions. Like, here's the guys that are going to be in the midfielder. Here's the odd man out. Yeah. And this is a guy that will come in case of injury, in case of yellow card concerns late in games, whatever. I just don't know what Ronnie Deila specifically is looking for and how it's going to work out. And quite frankly, I don't think we're going to know until we're a couple of games into the season and kind of see, right? Because he might start someone 1 or 2 games, and then maybe he's not quite getting what he wants out of that position. He might move guys around. And so I think it's going to be a little while until we settle in there, especially in the midfield, potentially in the back as well. But again, to have the depth that you had, to be able to bring in a guy like Click, to settle him potentially next to Bartek Schleich, who seems to be a mainstay, Jay Fortune, and Moyamba as well. And Moyamba had a couple of rough stretches over the course of the season, but he also did have some really nice stretches in the playoff run. So it'll be very interesting to see how it links up. If I had to guess, because of the absence of Brooks Lennon, because of the desire to have service from the right side, that's how I would start things up. But again, I'm not Ronnie Deila. I don't know specifically what he's looking for or even what he's seeing there in the exhibition season.
And to your point, Ronald Hernandez had some opportunities to send in some service against New England on the weekend. So is it a combination of Click and Ronnie out on the right-hand side to be those servicemen from the right to work what you're discussing when it comes to activity inside the 18? Another couple of minutes for you. How are you on preseason chippiness?
It's a love-hate relationship, right? Like, obviously you don't want anyone to pick up any sort of knock heading into the season. And that's just my biggest concern. But at the same time, you have to have some level of it, or it's going to be just an ugly, slow start to the year all around, not just for Atlanta United, right? Like you have to have a little bit of an attitude. And the other thing is, and anyone who's played soccer, football, really any contact sport, you can't go into a contact hesitant. Yeah. You can't go into it trying to avoid injury. That's only going to lead to you doing things wrong and actually probably getting hurt more often. So you have to have that contact. Now, if you're talking about unnecessary contact, right, stuff like that, I understand it. But at the same time, you and I are sitting here talking about an exhibition season, and it doesn't matter, and this or that. New manager, guys are trying to win jobs. Guys are trying to prove points. And ultimately, there's a competitive factor for every single player on Atlanta United. You don't get to become a professional soccer player by kind of having a ho-hum attitude anytime you step on that field. The fact that we call it exhibition probably doesn't mean much for them. They're probably upset that they didn't get a win if you're New England or in other situations for Atlanta United. So again, for me, it's just like, man, let's just get everyone to the season healthy. And that's the big concern. But at the same time, like, that's not how you never go out there thinking you're going to get hurt. You never go out there thinking, oh, it's just the exhibition season, I'll take it easy, especially not when you have a manager that's watching that maybe hasn't seen you as much as previous guys that you don't want to leave a bad taste in the mouth of. So I get it. But, hey, if everyone gets to the season healthy, that's what matters the most.
Well, and the reason that I bring it up to your point, in the match early on, looked like New England was trying to push some buttons, and they went into some hard tackles. You'd mentioned Jamal being injured early on. And to me, it's like there's a level of preseason chippiness and getting in people's faces and all that kind of stuff. It just seemed like to me early on, especially in the first half, that New England was trying to kind of overdo it a little bit, and you just kind of want to sit there. And it's like the kid who's had too many, pieces of sugar, and he's just running around the kitchen. You want to sit there and go, dude, just chill for a minute. Here's some decaf. That's what it seemed like to me.
Yeah, and the other aspect of that, John, and I didn't look up the game notes heading into a preseason game to check, but you also want to learn the officials, the referees, and what they're going to call. And maybe this is a guy that they'll have in MLS. Maybe this is a guy that they'll have in MLS a couple of years from now. I didn't look at the level of officiating and who was on the match, but you also have to learn those guys and kind of feel it out that way. And that may have been part of it. Yeah, it is a little bit of like, all right, man, it's your first opportunity. Like, again, pace yourself a little bit. But again, it looks and feels like everyone came out of it healthy. And that's all I can ask for.
No doubt. All right. So now that you have run yet another 10K and have and pretty much put the rest of us into the ground when it comes to our own physical capabilities, what's the week like for you?
Yeah, I mean, just building towards the opener, and it really has crept up on us. And I know we were joking, like, oh, there's only 7 weeks of the offseason, and then like all of the sudden, and because Atlanta United's offseason was so busy, right? Henderson and Dyla, Click, and then Almada and Latte Lath. And there's just so much going on, and all of a sudden, we are less than 2 weeks away from opening kick. We've obviously still got we talked about match compression. You still got 2 more exhibition games, including one tomorrow afternoon. And so looking forward to keeping an eye on that. I do want to send a reminder this weekend, and Tuesday's game is not going to be on 92.9, but that game against Dallas on Saturday, February 15th, 11:50 a.m. broadcast time. Mike Conti and Jason Longshore will have the action for you on 92.9 The Game, of course. So looking forward to that. And once you get there, it's a week from the game's finally meaning something. So it has happened incredibly quick. But boy, the excitement has also built quite quickly, and I think rightfully so, based on again, you don't want to like go so crazy high and mighty, but a franchise-defining offseason. I mean, we really hope that is ultimately what this was.
Yep, it is Garth and Chris's team now. As always, my friend, great to see you. Bat and lead off here for a week for another Reaction Monday. We will catch up with you next Monday and actually get ready for games that count. Good to see you, my friend. Glad you survived your weekend. We'll catch up with you soon. As always, you can crash whenever you feel like it. Thanks for dropping by.
You got it. Sounds good.
All right. That's Abe Gordon, everybody. So that's Abe. And Abe always comes in and he bats leadoff and sets the table for the entire week for us here at SDH. And it's fun to catch up with Abe because Abe puts up with my ish more than anybody. And because I'll go off the rails, as evidenced by pretty much every day's conversation. But somehow, and I don't know how this is possible, Abe knows where I'm going when we play analogy theater. And so he puts up with me a great deal and actually knows where I'm going, which is kind of scary. So that's Abe. And thanks for kicking off your Monday with us here on SDH AM. John, hear you there once again. Whatever your thoughts are from the weekend, lay them out in the Twitch pitch, and we will go over all of them, and we'll see what's on your mind as we go. Once again, remember, top of the hour, Bart Keeler from the SoccerForUSPod. I gave him 3 PK moments that we need to get over and go over. One PK moment might need to be an incident that needs to be gotten over by the club that got called. But we're globetrotting with reffing down here this morning and getting into all the other things involving refereeing, the new rules, the guideposts with that. I wanted to get into that with Bart as well and find out, because there was a moment this past weekend where you heard, and God bless the audio guys in the truck for La Liga, where you heard Jude Bellingham, and he had dropped 2 F-bombs, and they couldn't catch him. the edit caught them that we're going to play. But get into that and cussing and, stomping your feet and all these kinds of things, engaging when an outburst is heat of the moment and it's not directed at an official versus, it's heated and directed at an official, and how you gauge these kinds of things. So we'll get into all that with Bart coming up at the top of the hour. And time to say hi to everybody. I think it is. I think it's that time. So we start saying hi to everybody, and it is morning Ricky, morning Pars. Pars and his Aston Villa causing problems. Okay, so Ricky is saying go get your free hot or iced coffee at Starbucks. It's valid all day. What if you don't drink coffee? Can the rest of us dive in? Can I get my dragonberry blend? Can I get my non-smoothie fruity drink? Or is it just one of those things at Starbucks where you got to get your free hot or iced coffee valid all day? Morning, Rich. It's been a while since I think Rich has been in the Twitch pitch. So Rich is very, very happy this morning. And morning, Tom. Tom is a part of the Fly Eagles Fly Brigade, waiting for Rich Ransom to come dropping in this morning. Morning, Alex. Morning, OG. Morning, Abby. Happy kit release week from Abby. And some teams have already started releasing theirs. I think Messi and Friends released their Euphoria kit, EUFORIA. It's not PH. It's a Euphoria kit, EUF. So folks are releasing their jerseys and their kits for the upcoming season. So we'll see what happens when Atlanta United releases theirs. Emilio, Click going to be playing a majority of minutes at his age. Be concerned he'd wear down by October. Let's go back. And I think that, it's going to be, the time's going to be earned, frankly. I mean, but you look at, let's see. Well, let's check his minutes, and we'll see what his minutes have been over the last handful of years. Remember, 34, and he will be 35 in June. So, stats for Matthias Klick. So let's get into all of these numbers here. So last season, 31 matches played, 2 + 5, just under 2,700 minutes. 23, 32 matches played, 4 and 7, 2,727 minutes. Also played in the 3 Leagues Cup matches in each of the seasons that were attached to it. Then when he was in the Premier League, he had 14, 16, 17, 18 matches in 22-23, and then it was most as a sub. Then started in 21-22, 33 matches there. 2021, played 35 matches. In the championship, which is the chaos of the EFL Championship, 45 matches in 1920. 46 matches in 18-19 with Leeds. So the numbers with Leeds are and all the way through as far back as I can check, dating back to 17-18. I mean, he's an Iron Man. 3,800 minutes in the 18-19 season, 3,818 minutes, so 5 minutes left season to season, 18-19 to 19-20. 35 games in the Premier League, 2,400 minutes. 33 matches in the Premier League, 2,100 minutes. And then his last year in the Prem, 22-23, really didn't play a whole lot. Then his 2 seasons at DC, 2,700 and just under 2,700. So he's not afraid to play. And so far, the body has held up. So we will see. But once again, you're talking competition, schedule compression, those kinds of things, international windows, all that. So it's something that you have to gauge. But Ronnie Dial and the staff and the physio department, they're going to be looking at it, making sure that Matthias Klick is in as good a shape on a day-to-day basis as humanly possible. So we'll see what 34 turning into 35 is. But when you get a player like that from DC United for the terms that you got from DC United, where DC United knew that they kind of were ished and had to do something, they were screwed. They knew they had to make a deal. Atlanta United makes that kind of a deal for Matthias Klick. Instantly, you make Bartosz Slisz more comfortable having a compatriot there with you, having a national teammate. So, look, it's going to be the depth will be needed at some point. Matchups will dictate things at some points. I don't anticipate playing in every match, probably almost every match, but we'll see what it looks like for Matthias Klick when it comes to schedule compression, midweek, weekend, midweek, those kinds of things. But he was brought in here for a reason, and he's going to be contributing, and it's going to be a fun watch. Ricky, Miggy, definitely out there flying. And Alex will repeat what he says every season. The points you get in game one count exactly the same as the points on decision day. Absolutely true. And it's what you do from the first match to the end of the day, at the end of the season, and navigating all of that gets you into the postseason and gets you what you're chasing after. I mean, Dax was, Dax and Ozzy and that kind of thing. That's, you're looking at Messi and friends and all of that kind of stuff. It's how you're used. And you saw in Miami that were players that were forced to play a lot of minutes, and in situational soccer, you got found out. And remember, Sergi Busquets in the playoff series against Atlanta was not 100%. When he came in, he was exposed and got a cheap yellow card as a part of that match. So, like I said, I know that I'm taking individual examples here, but it's how you gauge and how you use. And Messi and friends right now, they have to go in that direction. It is a dangerous balance of those that are in the 30 plus with the youngins that you're trying to bring in to fill in the spaces. I'm intrigued by what they did in the offseason, and we'll see how it all blends together. But it is still the firepower of firepower and the big names of big names, all the Gulfstream Galacticos that are there. And then the players that they've brought in on ones plus options and loans and things like that. I'm intrigued. I want to see how it comes together this season. Morning, Harry. And let's see. So morning, Emilio, morning, Ricky, and Will. Yeah, definitely Will. We're all having a better morning than Drake or the Chiefs. Yeah, not wrong. No, not wrong if you're that way. I don't think Ronnie asked New England to be physical. I think that Caleb Porter is just kind of wired that way. I mean, there were a couple of tackles in the first 45 specifically where I was like, come on, man. It's like there were 2 tackles in 20 minutes on Jamal that you're kind of sitting there going, look, bruh. It's the first half of a preseason game, and you're sticking into tackles. You're having guys stick into tackles. I had this vision of Caleb Porter secretly going like, yeah, And Ronnie did mention about the team being more aggressive, and you did see a little bit of payback at times. But I don't think that Ronnie went to Caleb and say, hey, can you push my guys around a little bit? Can you dial it up? Can you take them out? Can you take their legs out from under them? I mean, there were some times where they were stuck in tackles. But Atlanta, you saw there were moments. There was one moment that is in my head at the edge of the 18 in the first half. I think it was after the second time that Jamal got taken down, where you did see a bit of payback. And there was a bit of a hard tackle on the edge of the 18 in the attack going down the near side on the left. Let's see. Ricky, how do we feel about the MLS big game ad? I thought it was solid. I mean, yeah, it was definitely one of those where you're dropping a dime. You're dropping a dime to make a point. And so I think it was a good buy, BUI. I think it was a good purchase for Major League Soccer to remind folks, hey, we're just around the corner. Strategically, I think it was a good purchase opportunity for Major League Soccer, and I think that the ad was well produced. Abby with the public service announcement. Block party with the link. Only $5. So well done. Go ahead, dive in there, get your promo code, all that kind of stuff. And here's what I was waiting for. Rich. I don't think Rich has recovered from last night. So Rich is very happy with all of his eagle emojis and his celebrating. Yeah, that was a whooping. That's the only way to go about it. And so it's good to see Rich in here this morning. I know Rich has not been here when we had discussed things like Jack McGlynn in recent weeks. So another thing that we will be intrigued by, Philadelphia and Bradley Carnell and how things will be. And I know as I'm sitting here mentioning Bradley Carnell and the 2025 season, the day after the Eagles win the Roman numeral Classic, and Rich is going, no, little time to celebrate. Not here, sir. So, and Rich has also given the 411 in the Twitch pitch about the celebrations and what they were allowed and not allowed to do. So, there you go. So Trae Young apparently has also made the All-Star team, and Rich about the Union. We're going to suck. You can move on. It was more about the economics of the deal and just what we've discussed in the past. It was not about the play on the field per se. It was about the money that has been acquired and what you are going to do with it. You know, were you going to just pocket it? Were you going to flip it and try to invest? What are you going to try to do with it? And the formula seems to have been set in Philly, where it is develop young talent, sell on young talent, take some of the money that we've gotten in response to selling on young talent and purchase individuals that will not max out that amount of money that we have gotten for the purchase of the young talent. And we will invest that way. So we will have players that fit our philosophy, and they can be of a certain age group. They can be younger players, or they can be, guys that are that way that have been brought up through the academy that will hang on to and do it that way. But no, I am intrigued by how things are going to be under Bradley Carnell. Is it going to be even more chippier Red Bullsian than he was at Red Bulls and at all caps, and what happens with the money that's being invested? So there you go. Rich says it's going to be like all sales go back into the academy, pay for things that should have been done already. Yeah, like I said, I'm waiting to see what this looks like on the field. I'm waiting to see, is it going to be like a trip to the dentist's office without any Novocaine, and what it looks like and what the patience level is going to be. Because if Ernst Tanner believes in what his philosophy is, and Bradley Carnell was brought in to implement said philosophy with his own Red Bullsian twist to it, how does it look? How does it look? So the vibes meter is where it's going to be, apparently, according to Rich this year for Philadelphia. So, like I said, it's one of the intriguing storylines for me. Rich is not optimistic. So that's why I figured, yeah, you want a Roman numeral Classic? Let's talk about the Union. There's your right turn. Okay, let's get into the highlight that we have. And here is the first goal on the board. We were talking set pieces with Abe. And so, of course, that means set pieces with Abe mean a goal, 36th minute. And here was the call on ATLUTD.com/live. It was Jason. He was calling the match that was happening in Florida.
Moranchuk deals to the back post, diving header into the back of the net. Goal, 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 Atlanta United. Incredible service from Alexei Moranchuk. See who got the final touch on that. The sequence, as a couple of goals have been created in preseason by Atlanta United. Pressure leading to a set piece.
So that was 1-0 at that point. And once again, Cleekwood scored in the second half to make it 2-0, and that was your final. After the game, our friends at Blazing Musket got to kind of listen to Caleb Porter, reflected on the goals. Caleb said he thought on both goals needed to be a little bit more hungry, dealing with the cross and not getting beat to the ball. Both goals, I think, are things that we can correct and clean up pretty easily. Didn't think they had a ton of chances on the day, and it was a pretty even game. They're a good team, Atlanta, very talented. Up until they scored the goal, we're there. It's a very even game. Actually, we had a great chance 5 minutes in the box about 8 yards out. And if we score, obviously the game's a bit different. Then disappointing on the set piece. We've been working on that a lot. Obviously, with our set piece coach coming in as well, the details there, especially with how hard we've been working on those, have to do better on that. And so that was Caleb Porter's main comment. Said no failure. A lot of turnover on the roster in the offseason. Remember, 4 players went to San Jose by itself. No failure, just feedback in preseason. Important to learn from these things. I still feel very good about where we're out. Mistakes that we made today, a lot of it's to be expected this early in the preseason. When you make mistakes in some ways, it's good because you really now have to look at yourself in the mirror a bit. Haven't had a ton of adversity. So today to go down, I did think there were times we battled back, could have gotten it to 1-1. In the end, it wasn't enough. Today against a good team. New England plays Tampa Bay tomorrow, Hartford Athletic on Saturday. But the one thing, or one of the big things that Revolution fans and followers were looking at was defensive set pieces. Wasn't all that good last year. First goal happened the way that we gave you the chance to listen to it. It was a set piece. Well placed by Alexei Miranchuk inside the 6, and Jamal crashing toward the back post to put it in the back of the net past Ivicic to make it 1-0. So that was what we were looking at from Atlanta United in the first half. Obviously, you look at what was happening. You had your swaps, and like I said, most of the starters played 70. Started out as Brad, Ronald, Derek, Saba, Miggy, Jamal, Klik, Abram, DCQ, Miranchuk, and Sleesh. So you look at, and we mentioned with Abe about Ronald Hernandez. Ronald Hernandez had the early cross that almost created a goal in the 11th minute. Then you had the Miranchuk goal, and it was the Miranchuk service that led to the Jamal goal in the 36th minute, I want to say, by the time it was all done. So listed as the 33rd. So 33 in the early 30s, you end up with the 1-0 lead. And once again, corner scored 3 minutes later. That was called as a handball, bounced around in the box, and it was not 2-0 at that point. But then you get to see folks like Miggy. You get to see how he's integrating. I mean, if you look at it from a position group at a time, you had Ronald Hernandez putting in crosses from the right-hand side and creating opportunities for Atlanta. And I think that when you have, to what Abe was discussing, with Klik on the right of the 4-2. The 4-2-3-1, the 2, you have Klik being a part of that right-handed element to send in crosses, and Ronald Hernandez proving that he was capable of doing the same thing against New England. And then you end up with Miggy and Saba. And the one thing, once again, we've always maintained that formations to a great extent, they might be loose constructs, but I think it's more of a construct here, just in number, not in name and position. Because just because you may see on a graphic that Miggy's on the right and Saba's on the left, okay. Just know going forward that you're going to see a lot of interplay and a lot of working one side to the other, trying to find the open space. And if the open space carries you to the left, it carries you to the left. If you are on the right-hand side and you're driving in, that just happens to be where you are. So that's the biggest element in all of this. And so we'll see what it looks like there with that front 4. But you saw what we were talking about with Klik and Hernandez working the right-hand side and crosses going into the 18. And DCQ continues to impress. It is turning into a thing where you're looking at Dominic Chongqui, and you're trying to sit there and go, the more that you look at it, the more that DCQ is trying to find a space on this roster. Trying to find a space. And it's really, for us that have been able to see what Dominic Chongqui has been able to do, it has been one of those things that has been cool to see in the development aspect of it all. And so that is the fun part in all of this for those of us who got to see him with the twos and with the academy, and we're seeing that kind of a build. DCQ, Dominic Chong-Kui is like, okay, not backing down from anything on the left-hand side. And you could see the Revs early on think that they could work down their attacking right, meaning at DCQ in the first 45 minutes. And it wasn't working. I mean, I think there were a couple of times where obviously, you're going to get that advantage. But for the most part, Dominic Chong-Kui held his line, held his ground, and continued to impress to the part to where he might be earning that homegrown contract sooner than you think. Getting play in alternative competitions, that kind of a thing. So definitely intrigued to see how DCQ continues in these final two exhibition games and what the end decision is here for Dominic Chong-Kui in the preseason. Cannot speak highly enough about Dominic Chong-Kui and what he has been able to do in the preseason so far. So, Ricky, a couple of quick points. Gregerson playing Wednesday, ELL training today, Lennon doing team training. You see on the team social media accounts that Brooks is doing training and doing cones and things like that. So Brooks is a training. Miggy has his visa. That happened late last week. Latte Lots is on the way. No, you didn't miss anything. And that Gregerson and Sleesh also got green cards. So once again, knowing folks in the right places. That's part of all of this too. Knowing folks who know the machine and getting things that need to be got. So just wanted to, I think that's the biggest updates that we have across the board. The second team that came in, and you did have a fire wagon change with 20 to go. You did. You absolutely did. So second 20 minutes, first off, started with Joshua Brad, and then 20 to go. You had Ronan Wynn, Tristan Muyumba, Jay Fortune, Togashi, Shande, Luke, Mosqueda, Morales, Noah Cobb, and Will Riley. So it was Click scoring in the 56th to make it 2-0. And you had chances from Miranchuk in the 64th, Saba before he was subbed out. And then you had a bit of defense from Bartosz Slisz with a little more than 20 to go before he left. And then you end up with a 2-0 win by the end of the day. So a lot of good things to look at and talk about as we go here this week, leaning toward the midweek match and then leaning toward the match at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta Training Ground. Once again, 2 days' time, FC Cincinnati. And speaking of which, the layout of the week is like this. Laurel Failer is going to be joining us at 9:30 tomorrow morning to discuss everything Cincinnati. That was unintentional that Laurel would be here to break everything down leading into the matchup against Atlanta United. But more specifically, we bring Laurel on to get the preview of FC Cincinnati and find out what in the blue you-know-what is going on there. What in the blue you-know-what is going on in Cincinnati. So Laurel Failer is going to join us at 9:30 tomorrow morning to find out about all of that. And yeah, the other part, and probably, Ricky, getting into that in the news and notes, we'll kind of discuss what's going on with Lucho and Evander and places and people and all this kind of stuff. But apparently, possibly, probably, perhaps, maybe, FCD and San Jose interested in Lucho's. John Fisher spending money would be interesting, considering that he sure as hell doesn't do that for his baseball team. So I would be leaning more toward FCD than San Jose. So that's just my thought. We'll talk about all those kinds of things as we go in the second hour of the show. But since it is hour number 2, it is time to bring in Bart Keeler from the SoccerForUSPod. And we got to check something. We got to check. All right, so speak, sir.
Good morning.
There it is.
Hey.
There it is. So, all right. What I sent to you were a couple of things, and what we like to do is first off, let's talk the U.S. of blanking A in the U17s. I mean, that's they mic'd Cooper Sanchez, man. They're getting ready for a tournament.
Yeah, U17s playing in the CONCACAF Championships, which John, as you know, and everyone else may not know, but should know, is FIFA has made the U17 and U20 World Cups annual. Because, which I will say,
Mhm.
I don't disagree with in theory, because especially for the U17s, the youth ranks and the youth birth years oftentimes can screw over kids who might be 18 during a U20 cycle and are just not going to get a fair shake that they would maybe, that whatever it is, you think that they're going to get one, but it's like, it just doesn't work out in their favor. So moving to a yearly schedule is fine, but that means that we're going to have a lot of CONCACAF U17 and U20 championships for the men and women. But it does allow someone like Cooper to get a look more frequently. The U17s are always more interesting because you're likely it's kind of a pros and cons, but like you get more of your first choice, if you will, because they're unlikely to have major professional club obligations, right? So a lot of these players are either in an academy, or if they're playing for, maybe a MLS or a USL club team, they're not vital components of those teams. And so they're going to more likely be released for these tournaments. On the other side, though, the likelihood you've identified your top talent at this age group, at the 17 age group right now, is pretty low, especially with an MLS Next Pro and an MLS Academy season about to kick off. So, look, watch the games if you can. I forget where they're streaming on CONCACAF of some sort, but they're fun. But don't, as I've always said, don't put too much stock into youth tournaments. It's just good to be there. Obviously, the U.S. wants to win or come in second because that qualifies them for the U17 World Cup coming up later this year, which would be nice. But it's that's all that matters, is qualify for the World Cup. Who cares what happens after that? But the U.S. should have a good chance of winning this. They've won on the U side. They've either won or been in the final of the last 7 in a row. So really, since the COVID things happened, they've dominated the youth ranks of CONCACAF, and hopefully that continues.
Tonight, by the way, it is the second match
Yes.
of the doubleheader on FS2. For those of you,
There you go, FS2.
FS2 tonight. It is at 5:00, Cuba and St. Kitts and Nevis, and at 8:00 it is the U.S. and U.S. Virgin Islands.
There you go.
So that's FS2 coming up today. You can have your full afternoon and evening of CONCACAF U17 men's qualifiers.
Yeah.
Anything else that we need to keep an eye on when it comes to national team stuff, either men's or women's? Any bullet points?
Well, I think it's worth noting. Worth noting that we had Jenna Niswanger make her debut for Arsenal yesterday in their FA Cup match, and she played in the midfield, John. She did not play left back. She played in the midfield, which, as anyone who's a Florida State fan would probably know, that's where she played during her time at Florida State. The left back thing seemed to be just a professional change, and I think it's fair to say defending and playing left back was not necessarily where she was going to be best as a professional. So I don't know, and I'm saying this as an Arsenal fan, I don't know if Arsenal signed her as a left back or if they signed her as a midfield option, and she played 45 minutes. I don't know if that was, I don't think it was because she was playing poorly that she got subbed at halftime. It looked more like, okay, we got your 45 minutes and now we'll move on. Probably a not fitness necessarily, but she obviously hasn't been in season for a while. So that was good. We haven't seen Girma play for Chelsea yet. I would suspect that's going to change with one of their 27 fixtures against Man City coming up in the next 4 weeks. That I don't know who scheduled that, but good for them. And so that is exciting, right? We're seeing some of our girls that moved abroad getting some playing time. That is exciting to see. And, especially because we don't have NWSL for another month and a half-ish, so we get to watch some of the USWNTers play real soccer for their club teams for the next couple weeks.
Right. And we also got our re-kick of the second half, the clausura, I guess, of the USL Super League season. So that kicked off this past weekend.
Yeah, which is been fun to watch, John. I've enjoyed I haven't watched all of them.
What?
I know. Watching the highlights has been fun. So
well, and we always have to try and make a point to figure out, okay, which matches is Jessica Sharman calling, and so that's where we kind
right.
of
Just watch the Jessica Sharman matches.
Yes,
that's
absolutely.
a good guide.
One thing that Keeler was discussing on his 280 character app this weekend comes from that USLS match in Tampa, where he said it was more prevalent, at least to him, that the somersault throw-in seems to be more prevalent in the women's game, and you don't really see it in the men's game. And he was just wondering why.
I don't know. You'd have to ask a female. To be quite honest, I will say that as a referee, I've seen it more in the women's game than the men's. I also think it's a very, very uniquely American thing. I mean, we can get into the sexism argument that it's more likely that a girl's going to do it because doing a somersault or whatever is somehow not manly. But I also have heard the argument, oh, well, women can't throw it farther, and I think that's also debunked because that is an abdominal and a form thing more than it is anything else, and I don't think that's legitimate at all. But I don't know, John. It's legal. I want that to be, it is very legal, and I think a lot of times it's an easier way to make sure you have both feet on the ground. You're taking the throw in. I don't know why it's more prevalent in the women's game necessarily. I would imagine it has some sort to do with some internalized misogyny, but a lot of things do.
Yes.
So that Super Bowl last night.
Yeah, whatever. I legitimately, I was more focused on planning and family stuff. It was on in the room.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, oh, okay, so Philly scored again. No offense, Rich, but yeah,
it was a beatdown, John. It was a beatdown.
Yes, it was. And so my prediction went completely and totally away. And I tip my hat to Philadelphia's defense like nobody's business. And it's gonna be.
I love the stat, John, that at least Kansas City still has that 17-game win by one score streak going.
Yes.
That wasn't ruined.
When they do, much like shingles and point spreads, Kansas City doesn't care. When there were three moments in reffing down here that I wanted to walk through this weekend, and also some cussing that I wanted to get into as well, and just how the new guidelines I think that are out. I wanted to kind of go through all of these things with you today. There was a moment, and this is one that isn't really necessarily video, that you really need video for, but in the Turkish league, Demirspor, and there's your reaction. Demirspor and Galatasaray, and Demirspor was so mad about a call of a pen after they did not receive a call on something that they thought was either a harsh valley card on the other side, that they get the penalty called against them. And remember, this is at Galatasaray's barn.
Yep.
And so Demirspor gets so damn mad that they didn't get a call and they got called on that they walked off the field. And literally, they're like, out the door. We ain't coming back. We're done. We're gone. Peace out. See you later, soldier. I mean, it was crazy to see that happen this past weekend.
Yeah. So I've never had this happen before. I've refereed a lot of games. I've never seen this particular thing happen. I want to again stress that this is one of those times where the referee, by the laws of the game, the referee has control over these things. But as we've talked a lot about on this particular show, the referee in this situation doesn't have a lot of control. This is something league administrators and league, whoever the league rep at the site has to control, because the league is the one right now that's going to fine or some sort of sanction Demirspor, because this is not within the spirit of the game. You may think that something was, unfair. Look, the penalty that Galatasaray was awarded was, I don't want to say soft, but it is one of those, the attacker.
I get
The
it.
attacker definitely made the foul look worse than it was, right? There was contact. It was possible tripping. The defender left a leg out.
Yeah.
I understand being upset about that, but like this, pick your battles. It was a foul.
Yeah.
It's just one of those like, yeah, okay, come on now. And I think, that is something that people get lost in, and a lot of times in the sport is the emotion. And look, let's not pretend like the Turkish league and a lot of the clubs that aren't Galatasaray or the Istanbul clubs, they feel some type of way against
They do.
the league. And so I get there's a lot that goes into this, them walking off, than just that. That said, I mean, the referee could have, you can abandon a match if there's not a team out there to play. You have to have 7 players to play.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you have to be able to finish with. And, if you choose to not field 7 players, that could be a forfeit, it really could be. I had games this week, granted they're like, small sided. We're still in off season mode, but we had a team show up and they had the minimum required players that they needed to play this small sided game, but they were like, we're just going to forfeit, because what's the point of playing with 4v6 when you're probably going to lose? And they're like, look, well, basically we're going to forfeit the match, but we still want to scrimmage, and the other team lent them a few players, right? That's one thing. This, again, the referee could have been well within his right to issue cards for leaving the field without permission. I mean, that's the thing. This is where we talk about the rules being bendy, because there are tons of things a referee could have done here. Issuing cards for leaving the field of play, issuing cards to coaches for unsporting behavior, abandoning the match completely. But I think the referee understood in this moment, I'm not going to handle this. I'm pushing this to the league, who has the better way to discipline the club as a whole, because that was the issue here, not individual players saying we're not playing anymore, or a coach saying we're not playing anymore and pulling them off the field. It is petulant behavior.
Yes.
But that's not, the referee isn't here to police petulant behavior like that,
So Galatasaray, as of 2 hours ago, on the 280 character app, and this is translated, so bear with me. Galatasaray, quote, "Our club has made the necessary application to the judicial authorities in order to shed light on the processes that took place before, during, and after the match played between Galatasaray and Adana Demirspor on Sunday, February 9, 2025. Galatasaray Sports Club will continue to stand on the side of justice in Turkish football and work with all its might to be best on the field and win there." Signed to Galatasaray Sports Club. So Galatasaray decided to just kind of flex there and flap their gums a little bit and sit there and say, we'll get to the bottom of this. We're here for you, basically. So Galatasaray, they puffed out their chest about 2 hours ago over what happened. So,
well, I hate to say this, but they're in the right. And that's kind of the problem here with Demirspor is when you take the option to leave the field, you're the one who now is in the wrong. And this is something that I do address with coaches and players. When you have a foul that you think is a particularly egregious foul that I need to deal with as a referee, like, oh, ref, that's a yellow card, and you start yelling at me about it. Well, now what am I doing? I'm not addressing the player who needs to get the yellow card. I'm now addressing you and your stupid behavior, because you're getting all mad at me, as I'm most likely on my way to address this player and either give him a warning or give him a caution or possibly send him off, right? When you crowd the referee, or when you do stuff like as a coach that brings my attention away from the players on the field, right? And then you get mad at me for not doing the thing that you want me to do. You're the one who's taking my attention away. You know what I'm saying? And so I just want to caution players and coaches, when you make a big deal about something before a ref has had a chance to apply any sort of misconduct or cautioning or whatever whatever our decision is going to be before we're able to apply the justice, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're running the risk of now me not applying whatever sanction they need in that moment,
Mm-hmm.
and B, you getting some to yourself that is needless because I'm probably already about to go give this player a yellow card. So
Yep. And
it's just my word of caution to everyone.
right. And so while we were sleeping, Demirspor chair Bedirhan Durak announced his resignation. And he says, quote, "I now sadly see that we've reached a deadlock for the sake of my club, my family, my loved ones, and my health. I hereby announce my resignation." And Demirspor, by the way, did post a 3-page statement on the 280-character app. Decision to walk off was taken in protest against Turkey's referees committee and the Football Federation, according to club officials. Demirspor, bottom of the table, and they lost on the kick by Morata. Galatasaray coach Okan Buruk said in an interview that after the visitors had walked off the field that the penalty could have been an incorrect decision. In the aftermath of the incident, Fenerbahce vice president Ashun Ilisha has called for the most famous and best referees in the world to officiate the league derby at Galatasaray scheduled for the 23rd. "We definitely hope that there will be a foreign referee in the derby, but the federation will decide. Our federation has such power," according to Ilisha. "They can bring one of the best referees in the world here. I'm calling out to Galatasaray Club. On behalf of Fenerbahce Club, we followed your statements on the foreign referee issue. Let them apply on this issue. Let us apply as well. And we want this derby to be managed by the most famous and best referees in the world."
I mean, again, this is. I don't know enough about Turkish football to get too in the weeds, but I know enough to know that Galatasaray is the big dog, and y'all think that Miami gets preferential treatment in this here MLS. The feelings that Galatasaray and other Istanbul clubs get in the Turkish league is, I mean, Fenerbahce is one of them, but that's just the feeling. That's just the feeling. Whether that's real or not is a whole nother story entirely. I won't say too many things about Galatasaray. My captain of my Sons of Pitches club team is a Galatasaray supporter, and I won't say anything bad about them.
You shall not
maintain that friendship, but
you shall not discard.
Look, they have feelings. Their feelings are valid. That doesn't mean that your feelings should dictate actions such as these.
Yeah, and Buruk said, "If the ref made a mistake, it'll be evaluated. In my opinion, it was a position closer, not to being a penalty. This is not the first mistake made against Demirspor. This is a great harm done to Turkish football. I'm
great
sad
harm to Turkish football, John.
Yes, I'm saddened for Turkish soccer. There always an effort to make Turkish soccer.
Here's my question, John. Yeah. Here's my question.
Sure.
So I'm reading that Demirspor and Fenerbahce want better refereeing at the Turkish league, and have even said we want foreign referees to come in here and referee. Now, La Liga has also said this, or Real Madrid, I guess, also said this. Here's my question, John.
Yeah.
A lot of these people are investing millions to billions of dollars in their local clubs, right?
Yep.
You know, probably the owner of Demirspor has quite a bit of money. I'm just guessing. Are they doing anything to make referee education and development better in their country?
I do not know.
Are they doing anything to provide referees at the professional level the adequate continual training? And I don't mean just referee training. I mean physical fitness training as well. Referee education, referee continual education, right? Not just learning the laws of the game, but the continual support that they may receive from a governing body or an oversight body to help them make sure there's consistent and correct calls across the board. Are they doing that?
Don't know. I mean,
I don't know either, and I'm gonna go out on a limb here, John, and say they're probably not.
Yeah, I mean,
investing a lot of money in referee development.
I think that's a fairly safe limb to get out on. Let's see. So they Demirspor, by the way, dead blank and last, and they have a lot of margin to make up.
Yeah, so I'm sure that the referees are the reason for that, John.
Yeah, sure. When you lose 17 of your first 21.
Yeah, and look, I think Jason says this a lot of times. The referees are not the enemy. There is I don't want to say direct.
Yeah.
But there is a correlation between the skill level of a team
Mm-hmm.
and the
I can see the diplomacy coming out of you.
I'm trying to say this in a nice word about the coaches, the intelligence of a coach within the game. There is a correlation between that. Maybe it's inverse.
Mhm.
Yeah, an inverse correlation between that and the amount of times that referees get blamed.
Mhm.
I don't mean referees don't get yelled at.
Yeah.
Referees get yelled at for a lot of decisions. I mean blamed. I'm just going to say it. If you're a bad team and a coach who does not have the knowledge and know-how of how to coach the sport well, you're more likely to blame the referees for your loss than looking at your own team and go, man, we screwed up.
Yeah.
And I mean this because a lot of times coaches and more so parents will blame a referee for a loss, right? Like, oh, you did this and that's why we lost.
Yeah. Yep.
Not the 3 times that y'all missed a clear chance in the penalty area to score. Not your inability. And I think this to myself almost every time I have any sort of youth match where I'm like, y'all did not connect more than 4 passes during this entire game. And somehow it's my fault that y'all lost 2-0. That's my fault.
Yeah.
Come on now. And I feel like Demirspor and some of the other Turkish teams fall into that category of you're not doing the soccer well.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the referee's fault. Y'all need to look at yourselves.
Yeah. So that kind of gets us into the U.S. Soccer strengthening the referee abuse prevention policy.
Yes.
Includes detailed consequences for offenses by players and coaches in American youth and amateur soccer. And this is taking the wording from our friends at Soccer America. Updated policy, which takes effect next month, provides a penalty framework for spanning from verbal taunting to violent contact. Enforcement depends on the reporting of the abuse to the competition authority by refs as well as players, coaches, and spectators. The CA will review documents submitted in the report and submit to the member organization the hearing body's decision. Reporting abuse entails submitting a written report within 48 hours of the abuse, if possible, with game information and a detailed description of the incident. Unedited video clips should be included if available. U.S. Soccer will provide details on appropriate designee to submit reports, procedures, reporting abuse ahead of the implementation in March. Now, physical abuse looks like it now has 3 levels. 1, minor or slight touching, 3 match or anywhere from 1 to 6 months. 2, level 2, intentional confrontation. And then you have level 3, which is a 12-game up to a lifetime ban for violent contact.
Yeah.
So U.S. Soccer cited the stats upon the announcement of the strengthening of the policy. 90% of referees that report abuse has increased over the last 5 years. How much of that have you seen in the last 5 years? That sounds like a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. I am really trying to figure out if it's worse now than it was, but John, I've been refereing for a long time, so I don't remember back when I was 15, to be quite honest. I think the issue, again, goes from, as what I was saying earlier, it's one thing to get mad in the moment at a call. Totally. Right? Oh, ref,
Yeah.
Especially from the parents or from the players or from it's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
The issue is, again, looking at the referee as the cause of your problems.
Right.
Or in this case, it's not allowing one moment to be one moment. And I have noticed more of that where there might be continual bickering about a call.
Right.
There might be, especially from parents, incessant, almost like they're anticipating, oh, well, the ref, of course, got it wrong. Look, the dad who's sitting by the goal on the other side of the field telling me that offside on the other side of the field. How'd you miss that, referee?
Right.
Listen, Cletus, you need to you need to either shut up or get your butt out here and run up and down this line with us before you start telling me whether or not we missed an offside call or not.
Woo.
Right?
Okay.
And I think a lot of this, to be fair, John, not to be fair, no, not being fair, to provide some context, I think it does have something to do with the fact that soccer costs a lot of money now.
Yes.
And parents are expecting to get a certain level of what they view, a certain level of quality of referee. And a lot of the problem is, okay, I referee for at least 2 leagues, 3 if you count one of the girls' leagues I referee, that try to claim to be the elite league, right? Then you have one that I don't referee for, MLS Next Academy. They're all trying to find the absolute best officials in their area, right? Well, we have 4 elite leagues then pulling the best officials, time, attention to, their league. There's not enough elite officials to go around. There just isn't. Sorry. There are a lot of good referees out there. I've worked with a lot of them, but that doesn't mean there's enough to go around to every single elite game going on every weekend here in the Metro Atlanta area.
Yeah.
Let alone Birmingham or Hoover, Alabama. Let alone Chattanooga, Tennessee. Let alone Columbia, South Carolina. Let alone Hickory, North Carolina. Talking about even smaller region. That I think has played into this, as these parents are paying a lot of money for their kids, and they, for some reason, right, think that the direct outcome of this game that we are watching right now is going to make or break my little baby boy or my little baby girl getting a scholarship to whatever college they want to go to. And I'm here to tell you, it does not matter one iota. Right.
And I would also think that there are some instances, not all, I don't want to make a blanket assessment, but I would imagine that there is also some feelings that there is a direct correlation between the amount of money that is invested in a player that is directly proportional to the amount of input you should have in a game and what you are entitled.
Yes. The idea that they paid the money. I've heard this. Well, I paid my money. I get to be here and say this. No, you don't.
No, you don't.
I have literally had people tell me that, and I said, no, you don't. You paid for your kid to play soccer.
Mm-hmm.
The privilege to watch your kid play soccer, it can be taken away.
Mm-hmm.
It can be. And as I have said many, many times, adults ruin youth sports. You are the least important person here. Just because you're a middle manager at some, Fortune 1000 doesn't mean shit.
There's the explicit rating on a Monday. There you go.
Sorry.
That's all right.
I don't care that you were your team's best salesperson in Q3 of 2022. I do not care. Good for you. Sit your butt down and shut up. Because you're not helping your kid get better. This is probably the same type of person who blames the coach for your kid not getting playing time because your kid refuses to go out and do juggling practices or get touches on a ball in between practice.
Non-physical abuse, since you bring that up. Level 1 is now verbal taunting is now a 2. Level 2, harassment or intimidation is a 4. Level 3, threats and derogatory language, 6 games and or 6 to 24 month minimum suspensions. And then level 4, offensive or discriminatory act, 10 game and or 12 to 24 months of a minimum suspension. That's the non-physical abuse element of this. In recent surveys, top 3 reasons cited by adult referees at the youth level for not recertifying. And as a part of this,
yes,
60% of referees choosing not to recertify due to harassment and threats. So 1, lack of respect toward referees' behavior of fans, coaches, and players toward the crew. 2, the lack of youth involvement, meaning my children's no longer playing. And 3, work commitments. changing jobs, job
Yeah.
responsibilities, relocate and reloads and things like that. So that's kind of what we're staring at with those top 3 reasons for not recertifying.
I also want to make sure that we understand that we're talking about, for the most part, at
Mhm.
the youth level,
Yeah.
people who are doing this as a side job,
Yep.
right? Like me.
Mhm.
But I have 3 to 4 games in a day most of the time, 2 to 4 games in a day most of the time. And I'll be the first to say I'm not in the most physically fit shape in my life. I mean, I'm not a 21-year-old playing both soccer and swimming at a collegiate level anymore. So my fitness is not at that point. I am doing the best I can
Mhm.
to make sure every kid possible gets a chance to play soccer in a fair, safe, and fun environment. This is just me talking. And I will say most referees are doing the same. But it is a thing. And look, we're going to it's not like I'm going out there and busting my butt for all 90 minutes. Let's be real honest. It's not a full 90 of running, right? I'm not doing wind sprints, although there are some games that feel like that.
Yeah.
But the reality is I go out and, I'm either walking or refereeing, or walking or running during a game. If I do 3 games a day, that's at least 7 miles most of the time. It really is. I mean, it's a lot. I mean, you've seen, the Brooks Lennon tracker and see how much he runs in a game.
Yep.
And that man gets to train hours a day to be in top physical shape. Imagine what I have to do. So some of this is just understanding that, like, sorry, I'm not in the best position to make every single call because I had to do 2 games before this, right?
Yeah.
Or while we take our physical fitness somewhat seriously, we try to stay in shape for it. The reality is I have to go work a 9 to 5, then go home, get my physical fitness in, make dinner, like all these things, right? We are not professional referees. We're here because most of us understand at this age, at the age that I'm in, right? I can't speak for the teenagers because most of them are doing it for money, which is fine. Most people at my age, the money is fine. Like, don't get me wrong. It's nice to have that paycheck, but I'm doing this because I love the sport. I'm doing this because it's something that I know I can participate in the sport and help, in my opinion, make it better
Mhm.
for the kids involved. When you are when you as a parent are causing referees to no longer want to be a part of the sport, you're making it worse for not just your kid, but every kid who's playing the sport with your kid. And I just want y'all to know that. I'm not saying you can't disagree with the call with an official. We're going to make bad calls. We're going to miss calls. It's going to happen.
Mhm.
It happens at the professional level. It sure as hell going to happen at the youth level. But understand that you mess up at your job too, right? But I also want you to understand that we're out there because without us, your kid's probably going to come home injured every game.
Mhm.
And without us, your kid's not going to be able to get, believe it or not, without us, your kid is not going to be able to get the level of play that they need to then go get said scholarship that you think that they deserve.
What?
I know. But I really do appreciate this in U.S. soccer. It gives the referees a little bit more power to report things, which has kind of been the problem in the past. Is we had one level of report, and it was I dismissed a coach or a parent, right? This allows us to deal with stuff that is outside of a report of a dismissal, because some of the stuff is not dismissal worthy. Even a parent saying, "Ref, you suck."
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe not dismissal worthy. Now,
Yeah.
depending on the context, it could be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or just constantly bickering with those things are not dismissal worthy.
Mhm.
So this allows referees to at least report it so that the local clubs can identify. Because there are some clubs, I'll shout out Rush Union, and Coach Steve over there I think does a great job of coaching, but I think Rush Union as a whole does a good job of explaining to their coaches and parents that the focus needs to be on the kids playing the game. Who cares what the referee's doing? There are some clubs where this is more of a problem.
Yeah.
And so being able to kind of track that in a more and report it more so that we can track it more is probably going to be good for the clubs and good for the players and good for the coaches. And I don't care about the parents, but.
Yeah, U.S. Soccer's strengthened policy stipulates that offenses against minors are automatically subject to a minor multiplier, resulting in triple punishment. So,
and I think Nick has said this. I'll say it: if you're yelling at a 16-year-old about a call in a soccer game, you are the problem.
Yeah,
you are the problem.
Yeah,
and that is something I know personally I do not put up with. Like again, you're gonna. Ref, come on, or like, no, that wasn't a foul. Fine.
Rawr.
It's the personal attack or the personalization of it that does become a problem. And yeah, especially if I have a center who's under the age of 18 and I'm on the sideline, I usually like to have those parents if I can, because, oh no, we're not doing that today. We're not. I have a flag. I'll beat you with it. I'm not afraid to go to, I'm not, just saying.
Then I will wrap up this week with La Liga. And since you mentioned discussions involving referees, so what we'll end on the play, because what you're talking about specifically when you have players making comments toward officials, the microphones at the Real Madrid match caught a bit of an outburst from a player in particular. And here is said outburst from our friends at La Liga TV and The Telegraph involving one Jude Bellingham. Here we go.
Of course, he used to rather high percentages of other clubs, but I think...
Yeah, so let me play it again.
Of course, he used to rather high percentages of other clubs, but I think...
Yeah, so that was Jude Bellingham from the weekend. Well, like I said, we don't necessarily we do what we do not have is the context attached to anything previous to it, but it is once again a player prone to outbursting. So here's how it was reported this morning. Jude Bellingham faces potential punishment from La Liga after he appeared to swear at an official during Real's draw with ATLUTD, and the ending of reffing down here has to do with a particular call in that match. It was at the Bernabeu, separated by a point at the top of the table. Second half, Bellingham had the outburst that we had, and Ian Dark just went right past it, not paying attention to it one bit. After challenging Llorente on the touchline, the AR flagged for the visitors to be awarded the throw, and that was when Jude Bellingham said what he said. And thanks to the Telegraph for bleeping it. Latest outburst comes after Bellingham escaped punishment for appearing to call an official a POS, and that was the longer term that he used, not what we are saying, during the win over Espanyol in September. And then Bellingham was not the only Real Madrid player incensed by reffing decisions during the game. After the match, Ancelotti was after the game. He says, "I don't want to talk about the referee. I just don't want to." He was pressed on it.
Oh.
Well, why don't?
Now he doesn't want to talk. Okay.
Now, and he was pressed after. He said, "I don't want to talk." He says, "The VAR called the penalty. The referee was very close to the situation. He saw very well what happened. He must have seen a similar penalty called against Atletico. People in football don't understand this. I don't want to get into a controversy that is already big. I prefer to talk about the game." So the play that Ancelotti is referring to is a penalty call. And what adjective would you use, sir, when it comes to this particular penalty that was called for in this match? Do you have a particular adjective that would?
I will say I did not agree with this penalty call, and it's mainly because I think that while you can say, "Oh well," was it Rudiger who technically stomped on the foot of an attacker, right? I think this could have easily been. I think the VAR intervention was unneeded because I do not think it was a clear and obvious error in the context that neither player was going to be able to make a play on the ball after this.
Mm-hmm.
The attacker in particular was the one who came in late and is the reason the defender stomped on his foot. I do agree that this was an incorrect use of VAR.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, I did not see this as a clear and obvious error. Now that said, when you look at it, yeah, okay, he stomps on his foot. It's kind of hard to argue that part.
Right.
I just personally, I think this was not a clear and obvious error to have VAR intervene. The problem is once you go to the monitor and you do look at it frame by frame, sure, it's a foul in the penalty area if you want to call it that. I personally do not agree with this.
Yeah, and the action, and this is the other part that I wanted to get into. So the context of the play. It's first half hour. Then you have Tchouaméni going for the ball inside the box, and he catches Lino's foot with his studs. Then you had the VAR check.
Yeah, okay, that's who it was. Yeah, thank you.
So Tchouaméni, and the ball had passed by Lino and as a part of the play. So
the ball is nowhere a part of this.
Yeah.
equation.
So Lino is trying to get engaged in the play. The ball goes past Lino. Tchouaméni is defending, and after the ball has passed, Tchouaméni then makes contact with studs with Lino's foot.
Yeah.
So let me ask it this way: just because the moment has passed, we had a moment. The moment's gone. The opportunity for Lino to touch and have possession and do with the ball whatever. But the moment passes, it's gone. We weep openly for Lino for not getting possession. Tchouaméni steps on his foot with studs.
Yeah.
Does it matter the when as opposed to the what? So regardless if Lino makes contact, regardless of the
yes,
pass,
it does matter in some cases.
Okay, and that's why I wanted to get into. Just because the moment passes and an action happens doesn't mean that you disregard.
And the reason it does is because this, to me, this is not an offense that require any sort of disciplinary action. This is not a yellow card or a red card offense. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So for me, going back and looking at this for a VAR, to me, the foul is like, if this had been an intentional stomp on the foot, right? Like it was within the context of to me, this was in the context of playing soccer.
Mm-hmm.
Neither player was in any sort of position to make a play on the ball.
Right.
And the referee saw it and didn't call a penalty. Now, the referee in his own right could have said, "Oh, I didn't get a good look at this."
Mm-hmm.
When the VAR said, "Hey, man, you need to take a second look." And he could have looked at it again and said, "Oh, no, I did miss that." And again, I think the referee going to the monitor and making the decision gives us some legitimacy to the call. The referee said, "Oh, no, I reviewed this and I see what happened." Because I could also see the referee going, "I didn't really see what happened." And you get a second look, or third look, depending on how many times you get to look at it on the monitor and go, "Oh, no, I missed that. That is a penalty." I just personally think that this was not something that was a clear and obvious error to trigger the video assistant referee to look at it again, or to trigger the on-field review. Okay. That's my personal opinion.
Right.
Because it was not something that this happens a lot in the game. People will run into each other. People will kick each other without any real malice or intent. It just is part of the game. And so it's what we would call trifling. It's not quite trifling. I don't want to use that word because it's not, but that's kind of what I would call it. Mm-hmm. Now, I also understand that because there is a foot, studs on top of a foot, that has been something that has been clearly identified by not just the Premier League, not just La Liga, but a lot of top level leagues to be a little more critical of because of player safety. So from that standpoint, I can kind of see why this was a VAR triggered on-field review. I just personally wasn't a fan of going back and re-reviewing something that I felt was not worthy of a foul. Yeah, that's just me.
Late contact, even if it was studs, that kind of thing.
Yeah. It didn't interfere with the player then even being able to get back and play. It really wasn't that big of a deal, in my opinion.
Yeah. Alvarez, they award the penalty off of VAR, and Alvarez converts it, and that we go from there. OG comes in. For refs, the physical demands are only part of the equation. The mental demands of continuous critical thinking and decision-making is enormous. The human brain, in general, is the single most energy-consuming part of our physiology. Multiply that by 2 and superhuman at times.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, a great breakdown too is the physical and mental side of things are often connected, because when you get physically tired, your brain will get mentally tired. That's not a great combination for being able to react and make the best decisions. And I'll also say this, if you referee multiple games in a day, it's not like it happens all the time, but like you almost become, I'm not saying accustomed to seeing it, but you just come a little desensitized to some of the like smaller fouls.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, come on.
Yeah, and I would imagine that also the later in the day, the time of year, you're just kind of sitting there and you're going, yeah, let's get out of here and hope.
Oh, yeah. Let me tell you, those 3:00 games in May and September, or even worse, August.
Whew.
Yeah, you're like, I'm collecting this paycheck. Let's all get out of here safely, please.
Oh,
that's the ones where I'm like, can we take a water break every 5 minutes, please?
exactly. Yeah.
And that is, I mean, again, that's a big thing. I mean, if I'm on my 6th game of the weekend and it's a final on a Sunday that kicks off at 1, 2, 3 o'clock,
Oof.
well, I'm telling you right now, that's going to be tough for me, because a lot of referee assigners want to assign kids, 12 games a day if they could.
Yeah.
Which is another thing I could get into, but yeah, the physical and mental demands go hand in hand, because mentally you're just tired. You've made a lot of decisions in a game, and we've talked about this a lot on this. A soccer referee, the center referee, makes more decisions in a 90-minute period than any referee in sports, because they are sole decision makers on that field. They have very little, even from the ARs, they have very little support. ARs in their capacity have 2 things they call, and only one of them is really their primary duty. So it's a lot. It really is.
What else is going on at SoccerForUSPod that folks need to know about?
Well, we're recording this week. We're going to be talking about what our CONCACAF Nations League call-up should look like, making those 50-player rosters, the provisional rosters that we might have for these. And I think people are going to be shocked at the names not on the list. And I think it just goes to show the depth that the U.S. men's national team has right now. So spoiler alert, Jack McGlynn and Diego Luna aren't very, they have players they got to beat out for these positions. Let's just put it that way. I mean, we have a lot of players who are getting good minutes at top clubs across all around the world. I mean, we had a game in Belgium yesterday that had 3 Americans in it. It is becoming harder to identify all of the U.S. men's national team players, and we're going to try to do that. Okay. But it'll be, I'm sure it'll make some people mad. So here for it.
That's what it's there for. At SoccerForUSPod, at Bartimus Prime 19. As always, my friend, it's great to chop it up on Mondays about a variety of things. U17's tonight on FS2, U.S. versus U.S. Virgin Islands, and we'll be keeping an eye on all that stuff. Oh yeah, we will.
I know.
And so,
are you going to be at the block party Saturday? You have official duties there?
No, I have. We're doing Creek Cup on SDH Network and SDH2.
Right, that is on the same day.
Yeah, championship day for Creek Cup. So I know that I will be at Northview calling all of the games at Northview, and I have them at 11, 1, 3, and 5. So there you go.
Wonderful. Well,
yeah, it's going to be a throat coat week, my friend. It is definitely
I can imagine
a lot of the hot tea this week. As always, my friend, great to see you, and we will catch up with you again soon. Can't wait for the next episode of the POD.
Love to see it, y'all. Enjoy your Monday.
And he's getting ready for a block party and doing things. Be good, my friend. We'll see you soon. And there goes Bart. All right, so remainder of time, whatever else is on your mind. Thanks for dropping by as always this morning. And we got to talk about FA Cup. We got to talk about Cupsets. And so what we will do is we will start having to do with plan for rain. Great. So what we'll do is we will start with probably one of the bigger Cupsets in quite some time. Came from the FA Cup on the weekend. And this is courtesy of the FA Cup, their own selves, and ESPN. Plymouth Argyle and Liverpool did not have this one on the bingo card at all.
Let's have a look at this clear by Train Yombi. Oh, it is a penalty. I know he's jumping in the air, but his arms are up in the air and it hits his arms.
A stalwart Plymouth player of 6 seasons standing. And Hardy, the Scot, beats Kelleher, the Irishman. And Plymouth Argyle, who hold up the rest of the championship, lead the club that is cutting a sway through Europe. Liverpool, the Premier League leaders, are behind at home park.
Yeah, manager unflustered. A lot of pressure. And Hardy, penalty taker, dispatches it. Sends Gordon Keeler the wrong way. As Plymouth take an unlikely lead.
And there you go. Would finish up 1-0. Plymouth Argyle holding on. And good for them. Everybody's talking about the magic of the cup. All those kinds of things. Arne Slot defended his team selection. 10 changes from the win against Spurs on Thursday night, leaving Salah, Gakpo, and Virgil van Dijk out of the squad entirely. Slot said after the match, most of the things we do for a reason. We have many games to play. You know, multiple cup competitions. They were chasing after a quad. Didn't get it. They're not going to get it now. We have many games to play. The ones who played today need game rhythm for them to be ready in the upcoming months. The defeat hurt, Slot admitted. Careful to give too appropriate praise to Plymouth, saying that they worked incredibly hard. Slot also revealed Curtis Jones was on the bench and declared himself unfit the morning of the game. Offered sympathy for Isaac Mabaya, the substitute who has substituted himself on his Liverpool debut. Had to take him off already on a yellow, taken off after an hour is very disappointing for him. Of course, Plymouth still 4 points adrift to safety in the championship. But if they show this kind of resolve, everybody's thinking that they might be able to dig out of that. Miran Muslic, the Plymouth manager, great story on him, a Bosnian refugee who will be the first to tell you that soccer is a great unifier of people, of locker rooms, what have you. There's a great article about Muslic that is out there. I'll see if I can find the link for it. Biggest moment in my coaching career came with a caveat. He goes, so far. Biggest moment's yet to come at the end of the season when we stay up. And this is what I feel in my mind and my soul. And so they've got a crucial game against Millwall on Wednesday. Muslic said, yeah, I'm going home. I'll rewatch the game. I'll eat some nachos and drink some Fanta. Very boring for me, but the fans should enjoy themselves. Nachos and Fanta. I mean, seriously, that is a dude that knows what the Breakfast of Champions is all about. Legitimately. Nachos and Fanta. I'm going to go home. I'm going to watch the game. I'm going to watch the tape. But nachos and Fanta. That's what Miran Muslic was going to do after the 1-0 win. So that's, I mean, hey, look, you do that. I mean, Derek, you are spot on. Derek says nachos and Fanta. Sounds like a W to me. I'm right there with you. I mean, there'll be times, especially this time of year, like in the next 90 days, where I will be on the road and you'll call a match late. And you're just kind of like, man, I'm gassed. Man, you got to fill up the tank. You got to do whatever. I will go into one of those convenience store gas station chains, the big ones, not like the mom and pop shops, but the big ones that have the grills. There are times, legitimately, where I will get the 2 for taquito deal and a large soda if I haven't packed it already. And this is like at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, you're heading home. I mean, it literally is like when you want a Crystal, you got to have a Crystal. So late night gas station, taquito, hot dog, whatever. I'll end up getting some of those on the drive home. So for Muslic to say nachos and Fanta, I'm right there with him. I get where he's coming from. So very, very cool stuff there. Great win for Plymouth Argyle. They're adrift. They got some work to do. And but no, great win for them against Liverpool, and it was great to see those kinds of moments. That's what you're kind of looking for in the tournaments where you get to have moments like this. Ange Postecoglou, by the way, says that we'll be outstanding after the injury crisis is over. We'll be outstanding. I mean, them's words. I mean, you're really showing a lot of belief in your players and a lot of belief in your system. After the match, we will be an outstanding team once the injured players return after defeat to Villa. So Postecoglou says the Europa League is now the only chance for silver. And so he went in defense of his players, as he does. Said that insisting any criticism of them given the club's injury crisis is agenda-driven and skewed analysis. Spurs were without 11 players. 11 senior players. Crashed out of the second competition in 4 days. They were out of Gummy Bear Cup to Liverpool back on Thursday night. Lose 2-1 in the FA. And Postecoglou also pointed to Arne Slot and what happened with Liverpool with their rotated squad as evidence of the impact of absentees. Postecoglou said, quote, "It's not damaging for me. It's obviously disappointing for us in terms of our objectives, but for 2.5 months, a small group of players have given everything in multiple competitions. Take out a back four of Vicario, Dragusin, Romero, Van de Ven, Udogie, Madison, Johnson, Solanke, Odegaard, Werner. How did Liverpool go today? And they just did that for one game. Do that for 2.5 months. Any team. Do that for 2.5 months in multiple competitions. I don't care about me. People will judge me, but you can't judge this group of players on what's happened. They've given everything." So right now, 14th in the Premier League. He was asked if he expected to be given more time to turn results around. Says, quote, "I'm not talking about me. People can judge me. They can say I've done a bad job. I'm not up to it or whatever. But there's got to be a better appreciation for what a very small group of players have been doing for the last 2.5 months. It can't be that people think that's an excuse. That's just not anywhere near close to objective analysis. That's just agenda-driven stuff. If it's to get rid of me, that's fine. Good on you. Go for it 1,000,000 times. But in terms of this group of players, what they've given over the past 2.5 months has been outstanding. It's a credit to him. I can't speak enough of him. Should have Vicario, Madison, Werner, Odegaard, and Johnson back in the next couple of weeks. Dominic Solanke also apparently back just around the corner. So, so Ange in press conferences doesn't take he doesn't take silly questions. And you can come after him all you want. Does not care. Does not care one bit. So he says that once we'll be outstanding. We will be an outstanding club. And so we're looking to see if that's going to go down. So Brighton beats Chelsea 2-1. Mitoma gets a late goal there. Bournemouth beat Everton in the final Goodison Cup tie. We did have another round of stupidity down here. We have to put the clock back to 0, by the way, with just absolute silliness. Millwall's fans decided that they were going to sing about an event that happened in the year 2000. So Leeds obviously condemned it, and so you had that happen. So once again, we have to reset the clock and reset the sign on the wall. Number of days since people were stupid. Back to 0. Man City beat Leyton Orient 2-1 after being down 1-0. So that was one of the other moments here. Everybody sitting there staring at it going, ooh, they're down. They're down, they're down, they're down. But no. Literally, they flipped a switch, and then everything was fine. Your Rubiales trial update. In Madrid, Luis de la Fuente denies participating in a meeting during which the Spanish Football Federation drew up a strategy to protect their then president. Second day of the trial, where Rubiales faces charges of sexual assault and coercion. Luis de la Fuente denied having participated at a meeting at the Spanish Football Federation headquarters to drop the strategy. Despite other witnesses having said de la Fuente was present in the office on October 25, 5 days after the kiss after the World Cup victory in Sydney, the coach said he had been in a separate office and not involved in the president's campaign to save his honor. De la Fuente said he had scarcely been made aware of the controversy following the kiss, according to the Telegraph, and had slept most of the time on the flight from Australia back to Spain, during which some members of the RFEF party, including Rubiales, had discussed a media strategy to downplay the incident. So De La Fuente says, I was in the office, but I wasn't in that office. When asked about his presence at a General Assembly called that same August 25th by Rubiales, De La Fuente said, I'm not here to talk about that. But the judge reminded him, yeah, you got to ask. At the assembly, De La Fuente and other officials applauded Rubiales as he shouted his refusal to resign over the incident at the time. De La Fuente, less than a week later, apologized for his show of support for his boss. Rubiales would eventually resign 3 weeks after the final. Earlier on the day, the court heard how Pablo Garcia Cuervo, the communications officer, had drafted a press release on the kiss with his version of quotes Hermoso had given a Spanish radio station minutes after the incident. Garcia Cuervo said Hermoso had contradicted herself by at first playing down the importance of the kiss, which she later reported as unconsented sexual assault. So your case continues there, and it is worth looking over as a part of your daily reading. So required reading of the day is to keep up with the trial that's going on over in Spain. So there you go. That's your notes on the Telegraph. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. All the things. Before we get out of here, we did mention the U17s and Cooper Sanchez. So if you want to look at Atlanta United and their impact on the U17s, watch the match tonight, 8 o'clock on FS2. Arsenal and Spurs both considering a move for 24-year-old Italy striker Moise Kean at Fiorentina. United and Villa were both ready to offer €70 million for Barcelona's Fermin Lopez, but the 21-year-old was not interested in a move. Barcelona declined an offer to sign Joao Felix in the January window before he sealed a loan move to AC Milan to the end of the year. Arsenal interested in signing Diego Jota. Liverpool willing to sell the 28-year-old for the right fee because of the number of games he's missed with injury. Newcastle Sandro Tonali, his agent, has played down the chances of him playing back in Serie A because of the cost of buying the 24-year-old. That's from our friends at Calcio Mercato. Atletico Madrid interested in signing Crystal Palace's Jean-Philippe Mateta, whose deal runs out in 2026. Three-letter paper says that Lyon's owner, John Textor, who is a major shareholder at Crystal Palace, wants his Ligue 1 side to bid $50 million for Mateta. Crystal Palace have earmarked Burnley defender Maxime Esteve and Middlesbrough Netherlands youth international Rav Vandenberg as potential replacements for the 24-year-old center back Mark Gahey. That comes from the three-letter paper, as did the John Textor story. So once again, three-letter paper, enjoy at your own peril. And Everton are aiming to sign young British stars as a part of a new recruitment focus, according to our friends at the Football Insider. Now, what to watch on TV, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, and then we'll lay out the week for you and let you know what to expect. We mentioned the U17 qualifiers at 5 and 8, U.S. playing at 8 o'clock on FS2. ESPN Deportes has Monday Night Football, Mallorca and Osasuna at 3, and that is simulcast also on the Plus. Fox Deportes has Serie A at 2:45. Tigres and Atlético San Luis and Liga MX Femenil, that's at 6 o'clock Eastern time. FA Cup, Monday Night Football there. Doncaster Rovers Crystal Palace, that's at 2:40. Mallorca Osasuna on the Plus at 3. CONCACAF U17 qualifiers on Fox Soccer Plus. Jamaica St. Lucia at 5. Honduras St. Martin at 8. Golazo Network has Inter and Fiorentina at 2:45, and it is also simulcast on Paramount Plus. Okay, rest of the week. Here's what we got. Tuesday, once again, tomorrow. Laurel Failer is going to join us to let us know what in the wide world of sports is going on in Cincinnati, because there's a lot to discuss and there's a lot to get into. Wednesday, it is once again the continuation of the Atlanta United conversational, informational, journalistic sharing campaign. Tyler Pilgrim's going to join us at 9:15, and we'll track down the rest of Major League Soccer at 10 o'clock and beyond. Thursday, Kevin Egan's going to drop by in hour number 1. That one's going to be fun. So Kevin's going to drop by in hour number 1 before the power hour of Nino and Nico. And by the way, if you did not have the chance to check out Fanati's, fntz.co/soccer down here, helps out the network, helps out us, helps out everybody involved, and turns you into a real sicko when it comes to what to watch. Yesterday, on Gold TV, Nuestra Tele, For the Fans, CDO, CDO2, all the BNs, you can watch all that. Yesterday, Nico was calling the Braga-Gil Vicente match. And for those who do not know, I will go, and if I'm on Fanatis and I go past Gold TV and I see Gold TV and I see that Nino's calling a match, I stop. It'll be on one of the devices here in the office. It'll either be on the one of the two laptops, or it'll be on the Big 55 or here on the main computer. So yesterday, Nino was calling Braga and Gil Vicente in the Portuguese Primeira. And I'm talking to him via WhatsApp, and our conversation ends up getting into Nino's play-by-play while he's talking about Braga and Gil Vicente. We went on sidebars about Any Given Sunday, the movie, Willie Beeman in the second half, also the halftime speech that Al Pacino gave, because one team was playing with 10, they were 1 down, they were chasing the match, everything was there, and so Nino wanted to invoke both Invincible, the Mark Wahlberg movie, and Any Given Sunday for the comeback that eventually did not happen. Braga ended up getting the win 2-0, I believe, if I remember correctly, the final. But he was trying to figure out ways to have Gil Vicente playing with 10, and they lost their striker early on a studs-in challenge. So playing with 10, without their lead striker, we're in the match, and he's referencing the Invincible movie and Any Given Sunday and Al Pacino and Willie Beeman and all that kind of stuff on the air. And I'm trying my dead level best to figure out a way to get a copy of it, because he cut an SDH promo that I have to put in the library somewhere. But just to give you an idea about where Nino goes when he calls matches, Nino went sideways, and it was hilarious. So Nino and Nico, once again, 10 and 10:30 on Thursday. Friday is wide open. And we will also have, obviously, with the match happening in the midweek, we'll talk about it as well as everybody gets ready to come back from Bradenton to be at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground for the matchup against Dallas on Saturday morning. Remember, our high school season starts tomorrow. Jason and I are at Decatur for North Atlanta, at Decatur, doubleheader 6 and 8 on our Mixler channel, soccerdownhere.mixler.com. Then the Creek Cup at both Johns Creek and Northview. Boys, for the most part, at Johns Creek. Girls at Northview. All of the games are going to be on the SDH network. Jason, Maddie, me, Cast of Thousands, we're all going to call it. It's going to be on SDH and SDH2. So basically just set your alerts. Download the Mixler app, mixlr.com, if you haven't already. And you can get prepared for a full week of competition in high school soccer. This week kicks off our high school soccer coverage, and we can't wait, because we're going to go wall to wall, and we're going to be in some really fun places to give you some of the fun environments that are all around when it comes to high school soccer. Like next Tuesday, we're going to have 2 matches. We're going to have McIntosh and Dalton at McIntosh Tuesday afternoon, week from tomorrow. It's going to be on our Mixler channel. And also, we're going to be at Seconder in Appalachia. I'll be there for that one, just the boys, and we'll be there. So that's next Tuesday. Then we keep going, and it is going to be on the 20th. Don't forget, go to Moxie Midtown and go and hang out with us for the third Thursday that we're going to start doing every third Thursday. Moxie Midtown, 7 o'clock on the 20th. Then we're in Dalton for Johnson, Gainesville, and Dalton. Those 2 are heavyweights. Then you keep going, and I will be in Lincoln County for Thompson and Lincoln County on Monday the 24th. At the same time, that night, we'll have the quarterly Emory Talk about the history of soccer and its impact here in Atlanta and the Southeast. So we're going to be all over the place, basically starting tomorrow. And it's going to be really fun to have the sport on a bunch of different levels and break it all down for you and be on our Mixler channels and here on the live morning show every single day, 9:05. So that means that it is the end of the show. Thanks, as always, for everybody who drops by and lets me know what's going on all around this or any other planet. Thanks to all of you for being a part of it. Thanks to Bart for breaking down the new guidelines when it comes to refereeing. We're going to try and catch up with some other folks to discuss it in 1v1s, and we'll have that on the network as well. And good to catch up with Abe Gordon from 92.9 The Game and get his thoughts to bat leadoff on yet another Reaction Monday. I know it was weird to have the front come through, and it was colder when we all woke up this morning. It was that false spring that we have, and then we're heading back in the other direction. So everybody stay dry and make sure that you've got everything prepped for the weekend, because it might be a little wet apparently at the block party too. So that's the week that we're going to have here at SDH AM. Can't do it without you. And we really appreciate the impact that you guys are making for being a part of everything here. Mucha Plata, as Abby says, play it safe. We will see you in a little less than 22. And since it is the end of the show, that means I get to do this. See you tomorrow.